It happened on a Tuesday, just like any other day. Nothing seemed unusual at first. I still had the taste of my morning coffee in my mouth, and there were sticky notes clinging to the sleeve of my sweater from the busy start to my day. I had just sat down at my desk, ready to begin work, when my phone lit up. The number calling me wasn't one I knew. There was no caller ID. Normally, I would have ignored it. There was no real reason to answer. But something made me pick up the call. "Hello, is this Lori Petty?" a voice asked. I hesitated for a second, confused. "Yes," I replied slowly. "This is Dylan from Liberty National Bank," he said. "We're calling about your mortgage balance of $750,000. We've sent you several notices." I blinked, completely thrown off. "I don't have a mortgage," I said quickly, my voice coming out a little too sharp. "You must be calling the wrong person." There was a short silence before he answered. "Ma'am, the file we have lists your full name, date of birth, and social security number. You're shown as the main borrower. The loan started 2 years ago." 2 years. My heart dropped. That was the same year my younger sister, Kayla, started talking about buying her own house. She called it her fresh start and said she wanted a place big enough for future family. I remembered her showing me pictures from Pinterest during dinner and laughing while joking about credit scores. She didn't seem too worried then. I also remembered what our mom said at the time. "We'll figure something out. Family always finds a way." But I never imagined this would be the way. I somehow managed to say goodbye politely and ended the call. Then I just sat there, staring at the wall, completely still. The quiet hum of my laptop was the only sound in the room. My hands felt sweaty, and my mouth was suddenly dry. I kept telling myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a simple error. Maybe someone with the same name in the same state? A coincidence? But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I got up and rushed to the drawer by my bed. I dug through it quickly, pushing aside old pay stubs, birthday cards, and receipts. Finally, I found a letter from Liberty National Bank. It was just a generic flyer, the kind you throw away without reading. I hadn't thought twice about it back then. But now, it felt like a warning I had completely missed. I sat on the floor of my small apartment, surrounded by papers and open envelopes. My life felt scattered in pieces all around me. And all I could think was, how did this happen, and what do I do now? I didn't own a house. I didn't have a car loan. I didn't share a bank account or credit card with anyone. I had always kept my money matters simple, on purpose. I liked it that way. It helped me feel in control. But somehow, someone had used my name to take on a debt of over $500,000. That wasn't a small mistake. And it wasn't just anyone who could have done it. Only a few people had access to all my personal details. Only a few knew my full legal name, my social security number, and even had my signature. I had shared that information willingly over the years, when helping them with college forms, doctor visits, and bank paperwork. Those people were my family. The thought came to me before I could stop it. I didn't want to believe it. I really didn't. But sometimes, betrayal doesn't happen with yelling or a big fight. Sometimes it's quiet. It happens behind your back, slowly, while you're not looking. Like someone turning a key in a lock when you thought the door was safe. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. One thought kept looping in my head. If they had asked me, would I have said yes? I wasn't sure. Probably not. But that didn't matter. The point was they never asked. They made the choice without me. By morning, I stopped pretending it was all a mix-up. It wasn't. The clues all lined up too well. The date on the loan matched the time Kayla, my younger sister, had been dreaming about her perfect home. She had told me about the porch that wrapped around the front, the finished basement, and how it would be great for a family one day. Back then, she didn't have a steady job. Her credit was bad. But our mom kept saying, "Don't worry. Janice always finds a way." Now I understood what that meant. I was the way. They used my name. I started pulling out old files from my drawer, papers I hadn't touched in years. Old tax forms, copies of my social security card, health insurance records, and documents I had signed when Mom had surgery. All of it was there. In my own handwriting. I had handed them everything they needed to pretend to be me. I did it out of love, out of trust. I was the responsible one, the one who always helped, the quiet daughter who didn't complain. Mom used to say it like a compliment. Lori doesn't need help. She's strong. She figures things out. That was the trade. Kayla got understanding and second chances. I got silence and expectations. Growing up, Kayla would forget to do chores. They'd say, she's just going through something. If I forgot, it was, Lori, you know better. She once crashed her car, and Dad just said, that's what insurance is for. Now I knew. The rules had never been the same. When I was younger, I used to ask my mom for a used laptop. She would always say the same thing. We're not made of money. I knew she wasn't trying to be mean. It wasn't hate. That would have been easier to understand. The truth was harder. They didn't see me as someone who could be hurt. They didn't think I could break. Maybe that's why they thought it was okay to use my name, to take my credit, to pull me into something that could have ruined my life. Maybe they thought I was strong enough to handle it. But deep inside, something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger or a need to get back at them. It was a moment of clear thinking. A moment where everything suddenly made sense. I sat down at my laptop and called the bank. Asked for the loan documents that had been taken out in my name. The woman on the phone was polite and professional. She had no idea that the file she was about to send would change everything for me. When I got the email, I opened the PDF and stared at the screen. There it was, page after page with my name, my birth date, my information, and my signature. But the signature wasn't mine. It looked like mine almost perfectly. Someone had practiced it. Maybe they had even traced it. But there were little things missing. The slight pause in the way I write the letter, R, or the small upward curve in the Y of my name. Those weren't there. This signature looked too perfect, too confident. It looked like someone trying to be me. And the worst part? I knew exactly who had done it. I didn't call them. I didn't text Kayla. I didn't message my parents to ask why. I didn't cry or yell or demand answers. Instead, I started gathering every single document that connected me to them. Tax forms, medical papers, student loans I had co-signed when my dad lost his job, everything. I went back through almost 8 years of files, one folder at a time. I was building a quiet collection, a paper trail that told the real story. There were so many times I had said yes to help out. I had said yes because I loved them, because I wanted to do the right thing. Even when no one really asked, I said yes anyway. Now I was saying no. I printed my credit reports. I signed up for identity protection. I made a list of every account I didn't open but that had my name. I had never bought a house, but there it was, a full mortgage from Liberty National, with my name on the signature line. It was notarized. It was legal. It was real. But it was also stolen. For a while, I kept everything on my kitchen table. I sorted the papers into neat piles. It was my life, signed, sealed, and taken without my permission. I was working on a school project, but it didn't feel like school anymore. This wasn't about grades or due dates. This felt like survival. At my job, my friend Abigail noticed something was wrong. We were having lunch, and she saw me staring off into space, not really eating or talking. She gently pulled me aside and said, "You look like you're holding your breath." I didn't plan to tell her anything, but I did. I told her everything about the fake signature, the loan, the documents, all of it. I think I opened up because she was one of the only people who had ever asked, "How are you?" and really meant it. She didn't try to make me feel better with fake comfort. Instead, she just took out her phone and said, "Call this guy. He's smart, and he's not scared of messy family stuff." That's how I met Mr. Logan. He was older, calm, and serious. Maybe he was in the military before. He had that kind of steady voice that didn't waste any words. We met in a small cafe not far from where I lived. There was no fancy office, no front desk, just him, a notebook, and a black coffee. I handed him the folder with all the papers I had collected. He flipped through each page without saying anything. When he was done, he shut the folder and looked straight at me. "You know what this is, right?" "I think so," I said quietly. "It's fraud. Identity theft," he said clearly. Just hearing those words out loud made my chest tighten. I nodded. I don't want to destroy them, I told him. I just want this to be undone. You're not destroying anyone, he replied. You're taking back what belongs to you. Over the next hour, he carefully explained the steps I would need to take. File the police report. Contact the bank in writing. Show them the proof. Dispute the mortgage through legal channels. And, if needed, press charges. It's not going to be easy, he warned. It will take time, and it will probably burn whatever bridge you still have with them. I kept thinking about that word, burn, as if the bridge was still there, as if I hadn't already been walking alone for years. When I got home that night, I opened an old box I hadn't touched since I moved in. Inside was a birthday card from my mom. I recognized her handwriting right away. It said, "Happy 26th to our steady one. We don't say it enough, but you've always been our rock. Our backup plans. We're so lucky to have you. Our backup plan." At the time, I know they meant it as a kind and loving message. But now, those words hit differently. I wasn't just their support. I had become the safety net they used, even when it hurt me. All I could feel was the truth finally settling in. My family had always seen me as dependable, quiet, and strong. Someone who never complained. Someone who never said no. I had been the one they turned to every time something went wrong. But I was tired. I was done being their backup plan. This time, I had a plan of my own. Thursday came quicker than I expected. Too quick. I stood outside my parents' house, the same one with the white shutters and the driveway full of cracks. My heart was racing, and I held my purse tightly. Inside it was a folder filled with documents, proof of what they had done. It felt like it was burning through the leather. I hadn't spoken to them all week. Not since I got the documents. Not since I sat in Mr. Logan's office and realized this wasn't just a family problem. It was a crime. Still, I knocked. The door opened right away. My mom smiled brightly. "Lori, sweetheart. I was just about to take the roast out of the oven," she said like nothing had happened. I stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and onions just like always. My sister Kayla was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone. An empty wine glass sat next to her. My dad was in his recliner, watching football, not even turning to look at me. Everything looked normal, like nothing had changed. No one said much. I sat through dinner, pot roast, mashed potatoes, and green beans with way too much garlic. My mom made small talk. Kayla complained about her neighborhood. My dad mumbled at the TV. I waited. After dinner, once the plates were cleared, I finally spoke. "Hey, quick question," I said calmly. All three of them looked at me. Just casual attention, like they expected me to ask something boring, maybe about car insurance or a bill. "Does anyone know anything about a mortgage with my name on it?" Silence. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy. Kayla's shoulders stiffened. My mom's smile disappeared. My dad cleared his throat but didn't speak. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just waited. Then my mom spoke, her voice soft, like we were talking about something small. "Oh, honey, that's just paperwork. Kayla needed help to qualify. It's not like you're paying anything. It's family." Kayla added, still staring at the table. "You have good credit. I don't. It's not fair if you won't help. Not fair." As if I was the one doing something wrong. As if helping them lie was something I owed them. I looked at all of them. At the woman who raised me. At the sister I used to protect when she had nightmares. At the father who once told me to always do the right thing. And I finally knew they didn't see me as a person. Just as a solution. A quiet, easy answer. But not anymore. I used to be the one who kept everything calm, the peaceful one in the middle of their storms. They didn't think they had done anything wrong. To them, what they did was normal, expected. They thought I was just doing my part. I nodded slowly, keeping my face neutral. "Thanks for explaining," I said quietly. Kayla relaxed right away and went back to her phone. My dad reached for the TV remote. My mom looked like she had just dodged a problem, like everything was okay again. They had no idea that something inside me had changed. They still saw me as the same Lori, the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who wouldn't say no. But I hadn't gone there to argue or yell. I went to give them a chance. I wanted to see if they would take responsibility. Instead, they used that chance to explain away the lie. To act like everything they had done was fine. That was the moment I knew they would never admit it. They didn't feel sorry. The next morning, I went to the police station. The officer who spoke to me looked like someone who had handled too many family problems. He was polite but tired and careful with his words. I handed him the folder I had built with Mr. Logan's help. He opened it and read through each page slowly. I saw his eyebrows tighten more and more as he flipped through. "Are you sure you want to move forward with this?" he asked me. His voice wasn't doubtful, just cautious. "If I don't," I said, "they'll just keep doing it." He nodded and stamped the paperwork. It was official now. That afternoon, I went to the post office and sent a certified letter to Liberty National Bank. Inside were copies of the police report, my ID, and a letter disputing the mortgage. The postal clerk slid the envelope into the outgoing tray like it was nothing special. But to me, it meant everything. That envelope was my line in the sand, a quiet way of saying, no more. I didn't call my family. I didn't send a warning. No yelling. No messages. Just silence.
4 days went by.
Then 5. A whole week passed with nothing but quiet. Until Saturday night. Just after sunset, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole.
It was my mom.
She was wearing her nicest coat, and her face was tight, stuck between anger and fear. I opened the door, but didn't move aside. She didn't wait for an invitation. "How could you?" she whispered sharply. "How dare you go to the police?" Her voice was angry, but I could hear something else underneath. Panic. Not fear for me. Fear of being exposed. "I trusted you to be understanding," she went on. "Kayla needed help. Family helps each other." "No," I said softly.
Family asks.
"They don't steal." She blinked, like my calm words had hit her harder than shouting ever could. "You've ruined everything," she snapped. "Do you know how this looks?" I almost laughed, but I didn't. I looked her in the eyes and said, "I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken." She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but I was already closing the door. The latch clicked shut with a soft sound, so quiet, but to me, it felt louder than a shout. It was the sound of something ending. That night, Kayla called me 18 times. She left 6 voicemails, each one more upset than the last. I didn't listen to them. I just deleted them. I didn't need to hear more excuses or guilt. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Liberty National Bank. The message said they were suspending the mortgage loan while they looked into the case. Attached was a formal apology. They said they were reviewing the notary records and comparing signatures. My credit was still damaged, but something had started to change. Things were finally beginning to be undone. I called Mr. Logan. "They're taking it seriously," I told him.
They usually do, he said.
"When you don't yell and just show them the truth." He was right. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't begged. I had stood quietly and let the facts speak for themselves. And somehow that was enough. In the weeks that followed, everything around me got quiet. No more texts. No more family group messages. No more reminders that I should be thankful for the family I had. They didn't want to fix what they had done. They only missed the version of me who always said yes, the version who stayed silent and kept helping. But that version of me was gone. Instead, I started filling my time with small things I had forgotten I loved. I walked to the farmer's market on weekends and picked out fresh flowers for my kitchen table. I read books in silence, with no phone buzzing or ringing. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want anyone to suffer. I just wanted peace. I wanted space. And for the first time, I had both. Months passed. Spring arrived quietly. Trees began to bloom in soft shades of pink and yellow. It felt like the world was starting over, even if I wasn't quite ready. Still, I kept moving forward. I stayed focused. I answered Mr. Logan's emails, signed papers, and checked my credit score like it was the weather, something I couldn't fully control, but still had to prepare for. The case was still open. The damage hadn't gone away. But something inside me had calmed down. I started spending my weekends doing things just for me. I walked hiking trails. I signed up for a pottery class at the community center. I helped out at the library on Saturdays. Nothing big, nothing flashy, just quiet hours that were mine. Time that didn't belong to anyone else. One morning, I woke up, made coffee, and sat by the window. The sun was rising, soft and golden, and for the first time in a long while, I felt free. I stood behind my little table at a local art fair. Around me were mugs and bowls I had made myself, some smooth, some lopsided, all shaped by hands still learning. A woman stopped and picked up one of the cups. I had called it reclamation. It was a bit crooked, not perfect, but still strong. She turned it in her hand and asked, "Why that name?" I gave a small shrug. Because it wasn't supposed to exist, but it does. She smiled, nodded, paid in cash, and walked away. That night, I sat out on my balcony with a warm cup of tea. The air was quiet, and for the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. It wasn't the silence that comes from being ignored or pushed aside. It was the kind of quiet that comes when no one is pulling at you, the calm of finally being free. That's when I saw them. My mother, my father,
Kayla.
they were standing at the edge of the parking lot near my apartment, unsure of what to do next. I stayed still and just watched them. They looked smaller than I remembered. Kayla's makeup was smudged, her eyes tired. My dad's shirt was wrinkled and untucked, like he had stopped caring. My mom clutched her purse tightly, like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I walked down the stairs slowly, not in a rush, but not hiding either. When they saw me, they stopped moving. My mom was the first to speak. "Lori," she said, her voice shaking. "We made mistakes, but we're still family." Kayla stepped forward. "I just need help.
Just for a little while.
Please don't shut us out." But I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel like yelling. I just felt calm, the kind of calm that comes when you know the truth and you're done pretending. I set down my bag and looked at all three of them. I really looked. "I hope," I said slowly, "that one day you understand what real family means." They stayed quiet. They didn't interrupt me. "It's not something you can take," I continued. "It's not something you fake. And it's not something you use only when it's convenient." Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was a copy of the fake mortgage, the one with my name, their signatures, and the red word void stamped across the top. Tucked behind it was something else, an old birthday card from years ago. The one that said, "You've always been our backup plan." I handed the envelope to my mother. Then I turned around, walked back up the stairs, and closed the door behind me. Not with hate, not with anger, but with peace. For the first time, I didn't feel like the backup plan. I felt like myself. I handed the envelope to my mother. Her hands were shaking as she took it. She looked confused, maybe scared. "I'm not angry," I said gently. "Not anymore." She opened her mouth like she wanted to speak, but I didn't give her the chance. "I'm finally free," I said. "And I'm not coming back." Then I turned and walked away. Each step I took down the stairs felt heavy, like I was carrying everything I had never said. But I didn't stop. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just kept walking. That sound, my footsteps, said more than any argument ever could. When I reached the top landing, I paused. The wind picked up a little, brushing the edge of my coat. The sun was setting, painting the sky with orange and gold, casting long shadows across the parking lot where they still stood. I looked out at the fading light and whispered quietly, "Sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you'll ever say." I wasn't saying it to them. I was saying it to myself. Because for so long, I had let them speak over me, make choices for me, and use my name like it was theirs to take. But now, I had taken it back, without shouting, without begging, just with silence. And they couldn't ignore that. They had used my trust, used my kindness, used my credit. And worst of all, they never once asked. To them, I had always just been the backup plan, the one they could rely on when things went wrong, the one who would never say no. But I had finally said no. Not with words, but with action. If you've ever been the backup plan, the one others depend on without asking, You'll understand why I didn't look back. You'll understand the power in choosing yourself after years of choosing everyone else. That day, I didn't just leave the parking lot. I left behind a version of myself that only existed to keep other people happy. I stepped into a new version, someone who could say no, who could walk away, and mean it. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them to hurt. I just wanted peace. And walking away was how I found it. Some truths aren't told, so people will say sorry. Some truths are told, so they're not forgotten. And now, I will remember, not with pain, but with strength. So if you're done being quiet, if you're ready to stop being the backup plan, remember this. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you free.